Alright, ladies and gentlemen. Just kidding. I know there are no ladies watching this. We've been talking about hard platinum trophies lately on this channel, but today we're going to take a little bit of a detour and talk about some hard DLC trophies. As part of my mission to complete as many games as I can to 100%, clearing DLC trophies can be a difficult, tedious, and sometimes expensive endeavor, which is why I tend to do it in small chunks. Now I know DLC content and especially DLC trophies are not everyone's cup of tea, and I used to not care about them either, but I've become somewhat of a completionist snob in recent years, I have to say. Getting 100% of a game's trophies has been more appealing to me lately as a way to close the book, metaphorically speaking, on all these old games. I like the idea of finishing what I started, even if I started it over a decade ago. It's also incredibly satisfying scrolling through a list and seeing strings of consecutive games at 100%. It's satisfying because when I get all of a game's trophies, it usually marks the point where I've gotten everything out of that game that I'm ever going to get. For most games, getting every trophy means that you've done a vast majority, if not everything in the game. There are some exceptions to this rule, of course. I remember GTA San Andreas, the original PS4 port. You didn't even need to beat the game to 100% for a trophy, which felt really weird for a GTA game. I think I got the platinum at like 60-something% in-game completion. In these situations, the trophy list is severely misaligned with the in-game 100%, so it's kind of odd to look at a game like that and say you've gotten everything out of it that you can just by getting all the trophies, but most trophy lists are much more in sync with the in-game accomplishments. There are also some games I still play casually, like Rocket League, Elder Scrolls Online, and Battlefield. I also pop in Skyrim every once in a while, even after getting the 100% 4 separate times. So there are some games that I'm still getting value from even after earning all the trophies. But the sad truth is that with a limited number of available waking hours in a day, I need to have a method of choosing which games I play and for how long. I can't play everything for as long as I want, so trophy completion has been a useful guide rail that I've used over the past 15.5 years of trophy hunting to determine when to move on from a game. While it's no longer possible for me to have a perfect 100% account, I can still focus on the remaining earnable trophies and retire some of these games from my backlog, and in the process play some pretty good games. The irony here, of course, is that trophy hunting usually requires me to spend a lot more time with a game than I otherwise would, so it's not that trophy hunting saves me time necessarily. It's just a useful, standardized framework that I use to structure my gaming choices. It's entirely personal, it's not completely logical, but at the end of the day, we're all just conglomerations of electrical currents inside walking meat suits, so
it doesn't matter.
But the point is, before even starting the Mirror's Edge Platinum in March, I plan to eventually carry the momentum from the Platinum forward and finish its notoriously hard Pure Time Trials DLC, so I could get the 100% and put a pin in this game for good. In a stroke of genius, or maybe dementia, playing Mirror's Edge also made me think of another game I hadn't played in a while, Dying Light. Mirror's Edge and Dying Light are two very different games that have a few very similar DLC trophies. And I don't mean something generic like they both have a trophy to kill 1,000 enemies. No, this is much more specific and something you wouldn't necessarily expect if you were to compare these two games side by side. Mirror's Edge and Dying Light have almost nothing in common except for one defining mechanic. Both games feature first-person parkour-style platforming as a method of traversal. Mirror's Edge is much more simple and one-dimensional in its gameplay. It revolves almost entirely around parkour and moving through levels as quickly as possible. Dying Light, on the other hand, is a much deeper game. Parkour isn't the sole focus, it's just one mechanic in a much larger, open-world zombie survival game. Parkour movement is an integral component of moment-to-moment gameplay in both games, and thankfully they both do it well. What these games also have in common is that they both have notoriously challenging DLC trophies that require you to master these mechanics in order to win a multitude of challenging races. We'll be focusing on two specific trophies in this video, one from each game. This is partly to simplify things, but these are also the hardest trophies in each game's DLC, so if you can get these two trophies, the rest should be a breeze. In Mirror's Edge, we have the Superstar Trophy, which is part of the Pure Time Trials DLC. You get this trophy for earning 90 stars in the Time Trials game mode. This trophy has been earned by approximately 4.78% of PSN Profiles users, but only 0.5% of all PlayStation users. Before starting this challenge, I felt confident that I should be able to get any trophy with rarity approaching 5% on PSN Profiles. After all, I have like 700 trophies that are at 5% or rarer, so I felt really confident going in that I could do this with enough practice.
The platinum for this game was challenging, but it also gave me a lot of time to practice, and I knew the skills I had developed by now would be instrumental in getting the 100%. And then in Dying Light, we have the GD Parkour Instructor Trophy, which was part of a free update called Parkour Fever.
Techland wasn't even trying to beat around the bush with this trophy name. You get this one for winning 10 parkour challenges at night. Why at night? So these f***ers can chase you the whole time. This one was sitting at a much lower 2.41% of PSN Profiles users and only 0.1% of all PlayStation users, which had me worried, honestly. I had attempted these races many years ago when I first played Dying Light, and it did not go well. And I always dreaded coming back to them, which is why they sat incomplete since 2019. However, I knew by the time I finished Mirror's Edge, I would likely be at my peak skill level when it comes to first-person platforming, so I knew this would be my best opportunity to finally come back and complete Dying Light and retire it from my backlog. Now let's go ahead and take a closer look at each of these trophies, see how they compare and contrast, and describe the experience of becoming a true parkour master, all in the name of video game completionism. The Platinum Trophy for Mirror's Edge is already considered to be very challenging to most trophy hunters, and this DLC trophy is considerably harder than anything you'll see from the base game trophies. If you haven't seen my video where I covered the Mirror's Edge Platinum, time trials are short 1 to 2 minute timed races. For each trial, you can get 0, 1, 2, or 3 stars based on how fast you complete it. The Superstar Trophy requires you to earn 90 out of 99 possible stars in this mode, and the time restrictions are extremely tight. While going for the Mirror's Edge Platinum, I practiced most of the trials until I earned 3 stars. While the Platinum only requires 50 stars in the time trials mode, I knew I was going to go for this DLC trophy, so I took my time and I earned as many stars as I could up until the final few races. By the time I earned the Platinum, I already had 3 stars on a huge chunk of the base game trials, which was a great start. I started off the DLC with 58 of 69 possible stars, and that's without even attempting 2 of the base game trials. With all the DLCs installed and access to 9 additional trials, that bumped the total number of possible stars to 99 across 33 trials. This does not leave a lot of wiggle room. Not only do you need to earn a large percentage of the total possible stars, but the time requirements for these trials are straight up brutal. To get 3 stars, you'll need to be moving at a high speed throughout the entire level while hitting very challenging jumps and maneuvers. All it takes is one small mistake to ruin the run. One small object that you barely accidentally graze while running that just slows you down a tiny bit, causing you to lose momentum. Some jumps require you to press jump at the very last second or you won't make the jump. Other spots you'll have to jump at a very precise angle, sometimes landing on a platform that feels like it's 2 pixels wide. Some of the hard jumps I was hitting in like 1 out of 20 attempts, if that, and then I'd get through it and then I'd miss another hard maneuver 30 seconds later, necessitating a full restart. These maneuvers are incredibly hard to pull off consistently, and failing usually means a restart. Getting fast enough to earn 3 stars in a trial involves a lot of restarting. Even when going for the base game trials, some of these took me 30-40 minutes to get 3 stars in. A couple of them I still couldn't get 3 stars no matter how much I practiced. Fortunately, I knew this trophy didn't require total perfection, so I tried to limit myself to an hour per level. As long as I could get 2 stars, I would move on to the next trial and plan on returning to past levels at the end if I needed more stars. This trophy really boiled down to learning each trial like the back of my hand, in small chunks. I'd start off by watching a speed run, and then I'd give it the old college try. After a couple failures, I'd review the speed run again and refine my strategy. The focus initially is to learn the optimal route, including any critical time-saving shortcuts. With these trials, there is no time to lollygag and take the scenic route. You'll have to cut corners hard and be in a full-on sprint for most of the race. Before hitting a checkpoint, you'll have to already be thinking about where the next one is and how you can quickly transition towards it. Once the strategy was learned and perfected, The focus then turns to perfecting the maneuvers. This was the hard part. You'll have to pull off a lot of intermediate and advanced level maneuvers in order to be fast enough to earn 90 stars. Mirror's Edge only has a few relevant buttons when it comes to the time trials, so it's not overly complex. You move with the joysticks, you have L1 to jump and climb, R1 to turn you around during a wall run, and L2 to crouch, slide, roll, and coil. Rolling will be necessary on big jumps to avoid fall damage, which slows you down. You'll also need to slide under certain objects that can't be vaulted over. And coiling is when Faith tucks her legs in order to clear a tall or far obstacle. And you do it by tapping L2 after a jump. Coiling will get you over a ledge just a split second faster than climbing it normally. Or it'll help you clear a jump that's just a hair too long to make with a normal jump. In some of these trials, coiling will be the difference between 3 stars and 2 stars. As a result, a lot of jumps become a 2-button sequence instead of a 1-button sequence. This was a rare game and trophy that actually induced a physiological response in me while I was playing it. Anytime I would attempt a far jump, especially one I'd been struggling with, I could actually feel myself leaning forward, like I was personally trying to clear the landing I was trying to make in the game. I could feel certain muscles tense up when I was attempting certain challenging maneuvers, and it would make me perk up in my chair involuntarily. I'd have to mentally catch myself and return myself to a normal, comfortable, seated position. Once I learned each trial's optimal route and the maneuvers needed to make the time limit, the path to success for each trial laid simply in practice and repetition. For the most part, I stuck with the trial until I was done with it, slowly refining my runs by fractions of a second and eventually putting it all together for a successful run. It took a lot of practice and a lot of time, but that was something I'd grown accustomed to by this point, 16 years almost into my trophy hunting journey. All in all, this was a very difficult trophy. As I mentioned, these trials took a lot of practice, and there are 33 of them. I certainly wouldn't put it on the same level of difficulty as something like the Devil May Cry 5 Platinum, but I would give it an 8 out of 10. It will take a lot of practice and patience and a lot of failures before you finally succeed. Thankfully, Mirror's Edge is a really fun game that holds up well for its age, even for an old PS3 game, and this DLC added some wonderfully creative, colorful, and unique trials to provide a few more hours of gameplay. I also plan to post a video or playlist with all my successful time trial runs, maybe with some retrospective commentary on top, so let me know in the comments if that's something you might be interested in. Back in 2019, I earned all the other trophies in Dying Light, besides those related to the parkour challenges. I remember attempting a few of the challenges back then, but I don't remember beating any of them, and I remember giving up pretty easily. But after finishing Mirror's Edge, I was overflowing with big dick energy. I felt like a platforming god, at least in the first person, who could handle any challenge. Even though it had been many years since I played Dying Light, it didn't matter because I was here for one thing and one thing only. The parkour challenges. Well, not exactly. I booted up my old save and it must have been a New Game Plus because I didn't even have all the parkour challenges unlocked. So I had to spend about 4 hours playing through the story to progress far enough to unlock them. This wasn't a big deal, in fact it was pretty enjoyable. I really liked Dying Light when I played it in 2019, and this was a nice palate cleanser to play something more casual for a few hours. This also gave me a chance to refamiliarize myself with the game and with my character. Since I had already earned all the other trophies years ago, I had basically all the skills unlocked and a ton of really good weapons and items. I was in the end game of Dying Light already, and you'll probably want to wait until the end to even try these parkour challenges, because having all the agility skills unlocked will allow you to run faster and longer, and will improve how quickly you can climb objects. Eventually, you'll be able to run without getting tired, which is obviously a game changer. I also had in my inventory from 2019 a special item called the Paiza suit, which you can obtain from an in-game Easter egg. The Paiza suit allows you to glide after a jump, which provides an obvious advantage in the context of a platforming race. This Easter egg is well hidden, yet it's easily accessible about halfway through the main story. If you go to this spot on the map in the Old Town section of the game, you'll find a green tunnel embedded inside a chimney that, when entered, warps you to the iconic World 1-1 from the original Super Mario Bros. This opening level from the Nintendo Classic is cemented in video game history, and it's really cool that Techland linked it to such a useful item in the Paiza suit because otherwise I never would have seen it. There is no trophy for finding it, but it is incredibly useful, and you get to experience one of the coolest video game Easter eggs of all time on your way to getting it. So equipped with the Paiza suit and having unlocked all the parkour challenges, I made my way to the safe house near challenge number 1. Since these challenges have to be done at night, you can sleep at a safe house, which will change day to night and vice versa. Nighttime in this game is a fleeting 7 minutes real time, which means you have 7 minutes to reach a challenge and complete it. If you don't complete the challenge by 6 a.m. in-game time, you have to return to a safe house, sleep until night, and then trek back to the challenge for some more attempts. I immediately thought, well, this is going to be extremely tedious. I'm going to be spending all my time just running back and forth between the safe house and the challenge. So I watched a speedrun of the first challenge a few times and tried to learn the best route. Just like Mirror's Edge, I knew memorizing the race layout and optimal path was crucial for getting the fastest possible time. These parkour challenges are a little longer than the Mirror's Edge trials, which meant I had more to memorize, but after watching a couple successful runs, I headed to the starting line for my first challenge. The first night did not go well. I did not beat any challenges on night number 1. I came close to beating the first challenge near the end of the first night, but came up just short due to getting lost. I was disappointed, but optimistic. With just a few minutes of practice, I was already close to being fast enough to complete the first challenge. I felt confident going into night number 2 that I would have it done before the sun rose a second time. I was also getting more comfortable with the Paiza suit, and I could already tell it was going to make a big difference in the difficulty of these challenges. So I sprinted back to the safe house until nighttime and returned to challenge 1 the following morning. On my second attempt of day 2, I beat challenge number 1 with 7 seconds to spare. 7 whole seconds. And it was far from a polished run. I had only practiced the challenge for 8 or 9 minutes total by this point. So naturally, finishing the first Dying Light challenge with 7 whole seconds left on the clock, with less than 10 minutes of practice, gave me a big burst of confidence. And I knew I had the trophy in the bag. So I returned to a safe house, rested until night, and made my way to challenge number 2. I believe I watched a few runs of challenge number 2 before starting, but I quickly realized that I had a big advantage in Dying Light right in front of my eyes that was entirely missing in Mirror's Edge. A mini-map. In each parkour challenge, the current checkpoint is displayed on a mini-map in the top right corner. So I shifted my focus there instead, and relying on that as my new strategy for learning the path, I burned through challenge number 2 on my first attempt with a few seconds to spare. At this point, I knew. I'm about to tear these challenges up. Within a few hours, I had all 10 challenges completed. The entire combined playtime of all 10 challenges, which includes failed attempts and running back and forth from the safe house to the starting line, was only about an hour and 20 minutes. Half of them I had completed within 5 minutes from the time I left the safe house. There was one challenge, I think it was number 6 or something, called Tower Run. That one I struggled with for about 20 minutes, but the rest were really simple. I hyped this trophy and these challenges up so much in my head, but truthfully, they don't deserve to be mentioned in the same sentence as the Mirror's Edge time trials. In Mirror's Edge, I was lucky to have 1 or 2 seconds to spare at the end of a run, and that's after 30 to 40 minutes of practice. Every trial in Mirror's Edge was a sprint to the finish line, and not just full-blown mistakes, but even small imperfections in your run could cost you the time you needed. Mirror's Edge also has a ton of gaps where if you miss a jump, you fall all the way down and it respawns you a few seconds behind, which always ruins a run, of course. In Dying Light, almost none of the jumps I had to make felt consequential. There's always something to land on that won't kill you and ruin your run. Maybe this particular element was all in my head, but after the first parkour challenge, I felt no anxiety about any other challenge. By the 3rd or 4th one, I could tell I was easily going to finish them all that day. But truthfully, the Paiza suit really makes these challenges laughably easy, in my opinion. And I'd only give this a 4 or 5 out of 10. Probably a 4, maybe a 4.5. Being able to glide across a gap instead of merely jumping over it removed all the challenge that is inherent in races like these. I didn't have to perfect the timing because the suit allows you to easily glide across most jumps with plenty of room to spare. And a part of me wishes I had tried them without the suit, but I had to remind myself. I am not trying to 100% games in the hardest way possible here. The goal is to 100% the game without flat out cheating, and I would never consider using an item in the game to be cheating. Even though this suit was hidden behind an Easter egg, it's pretty easy to obtain and it makes the parkour challenges much easier, so it stands to reason that many players would naturally use it for these challenges. If you're still struggling with these challenges, even with the Paiza suit, There are a few additional items in the game that will allow you to run faster. The Gwai daggers provide substantial speed boosts when performing parkour movements, and there are also consumable items called boosters that can give you speed or stamina boosts. These are completely unnecessary in my opinion if you're already maxed out with the Paisa suit, but it can be a way to reduce the difficulty even further. So that's the story of how I became a parkour master of platforming, all in the name of obtaining the notoriously difficult 100% completion in these two games. These were two trophies that years ago I assumed I would never earn due to their difficulty, and now they both sit conquered at my feet. That will continue to be a recurring theme of this channel, especially any trophy or completion related content. There is no trophy or challenge in a video game that's too hard. There are only tests of how much time and patience you're willing to put into the challenge. With enough practice, any person can get through these obstacles and conquer their favorite games. To close out, I want to reiterate how grateful I am for the tremendous amount of support the channel has gotten over the past couple months. If you're new to the channel, please consider subscribing and check out some of my other videos, including the Hard Platinum Trophy series. That series will be a top priority of the channel this year, but I will also occasionally be making videos such as this one and other formats that focus on video games and trophy hunting in one way or another. My next video will cover the platinums for Wolfenstein 2 and Metal Gear Rising: Revengeance. And I'll be starting Metal Gear Rising: Revengeance this week, so you're definitely not going to want to miss that one. Let me know in the comments what crazy, difficult, or grueling things you've done to complete a game, and I'll see you all in the next video.